You listen to the Sound of Niagara podcast. We're going to talk about the pause in the tariffs and the roller coaster nonsense of the Trump administration. We're going to talk about Elon Musk getting trolled and how his crash out is going. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Minecraft the movie and what it means for our culture today. And here we go.
Comedy's back, you know. But it is the left, you know. They tried to make it illegal. So uncool.
Okay, it started off there. Did you hear that?
Oh yeah.
What do you think of that? Yeah.
That was that a clip from Kill Tony?
Yeah, what is Kill Tony? I mean, I think it's part of the blogosphere, the manosphere stuff, right?
Yeah, so it's Kill Tony is a show that's hosted by the comedian Tony Hinchcliffe that performs from Joe Rogan's comedy club in Austin. And I've never watched a full episode, but his clips from the show are very popular online. And the premise seems to be he draws names out of a bucket and, you know, amateur comedians go up and give like a type five and attempt to try to make a name for themselves.
Well, that was an amateur comedian making fun of Elon right there?
No, so there's a panel that is, you know, seasoned comedians that he invites on to, you know, make critiques, that kind of stuff. And so that I don't know who was doing the impression of Elon, but
it was
a pretty good impression,
funny.
I'd say.
It was pretty darn funny. And I noticed how uncomfortable Joe Rogan looked. I mean, Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
as I say every day, Joe Rogan, the grifter, sawdust salesman, podcast grifter, what is he else? He conspiracy theorist, believes the moon landing was fake, believes in alien technology, built the pyramids, just nonsense. I don't know how this person became the leading voice of America, the Rush Limbaugh of this generation, but he has. And people are fooled by his nonsense. I think, what do you think? What is the draw of Joe Rogan? Why has he become such a guru? And he pretends he's not. I think that's part of the reason why he's successful. He pretends it's all just a gag. It's fun. But he's not very smart, right? Or at least in the traditional sense. He doesn't seem very smart. His theories seem to be completely out there. And he's not funny. Like, maybe some of the people he puts around him, I'm not saying Hinchcliffe is funny. Maybe some of the people he puts around him are funny, but what is the draw? What do you think? Why do you think so many people my generation love Joe Rogan?
I think initially there was something appealing to the fact that he was talking about things that, you know, a certain type of, you know, maybe a stereotypical bro is interested in, you know, MMA, fighting, comedy, hunting, that kind of stuff. And he also was one of the, you know, people to really get in early on the whole podcasting.
Yeah, he was really early in the podcast
medium
world. Let me see if I can put this guy over here.
So I think that combined with, you know, the fact that he is able to have, you know, he does have interesting people on. I don't know if you saw, but there's a clip that was going viral this week of Sam Harris where he was talking about, you know, the problem with Joe Rogan isn't that he has conspiracy theorists on his show. It's that he purposefully doesn't take any measures to
I didn't see that,
contradict anything they say.
But I'll say he's obviously a conspiracy theorist, right? He believes in, I mean, like I said, I remember listening to Joe Rogan in like the early 2000s, maybe 2010s around there when it first started, because there was, you know, it was a popular new medium. And I remember, I didn't like it, but I remember I listened to it a few times way back then, and like it was trash mostly. But it was like kind of like what is that, coast to coast radio from the, you know, the 80s and this maybe the 90s. It was a radio show that was on AM radio, and they talk about like Bigfoot and aliens, and Joe Rogan was very much like that, but it was kind of like a frat boy version of that. And I kind of forgot about it. And then I remembered there were people that I knew that were kind of educated, and they were telling me how much they loved Joe Rogan. I thought, that's weird. Like, it's weird that these adult people that are, you know, otherwise not interested in Joe Rogan, this type of stuff at all, are suddenly telling me to listen to it. I think part of it was the long form nature of it. I think people started to kind of be brainwashed by some of it, because they would listen to it for hours on end, kind of like filling the space in their head. And I think some of the ideas became normalized. This nonsense became normalized. What do you think of my theory on that?
No, yeah, I think there's a lot to that. I think, people I think most people are naturally curious. And, for as much as people talk about how attention spans are slowly getting shorter and shorter, which I don't doubt they are, but I do think there is a desire to really look in depth on certain issues. And you're not going to get that on a 30-minute nightly news program because that's not what it's supposed to be. That's not what it's designed for.
So
So I
my
do think,
thing,
podcasting in general gives people an opportunity to really look in deeply to certain topics and issues. But the thing is that Joe Rogan doesn't do is he never pushes back on anything that
and
the
nobody pushes
guests,
back on him. I mean,
yeah.
it seems to me even powerful people are intimidated by him. And also because it became such a big platform, it became normalized because you'd have mainstream comedians on there. And like I also remember a lot of like liberal people, otherwise liberal people going
Well,
up.
yeah, not just comedians. I mean, scientists. Neil deGrasse Tyson has been on the show multiple times. Bernie Sanders was on the show.
But he
Quentin Tarantino has been on multiple times.
but I remember when Neil deGrasse Tyson was on, I actually listened to some of that in one of the episodes at least, and he would push back against Rogan. I remember he shredded Rogan on this idea that the moon landing was fake. And I thought, good for you, Neil. I mean, this is stupid that young men are out there thinking about the flat Earth and stuff.
Yeah.
It draws into the more broader problem in America today that any type of expertise is considered fake and stupid and nonsense. I think after Watergate and the slow erosion of trust in America, including the Clinton administration for that matter, and the lying about going into the Iraq War, we stopped believing in our government. And then we also stopped believing in our faith because so many people were abused by their pastor or priest or whatever. I mean, right here in Buffalo, we had over 900 cases, I believe. I mean, I think there were
Wow.
900 alleged cases of sexual abuse. So, like, all these traditional forms of knowledge or even spiritual knowledge became undermined in our lifetime. And so people are looking for alternatives. And these guys, it's like Rogan doesn't act or sound like Rush Limbaugh, but he has at least as profound, maybe more of a profound effect on the electorate than Limbaugh ever did, because Limbaugh
Mhm.
was so obviously aligned with politics, where Rogan is like one day is talking about AI, the next day is talking with a white supremacist. So I think it's like the lack of faith or trust in experts mixed with this new medium of technology, mixed with a very irresponsible person who really is just into grift. I mean, for years, remember what he used to sell on there for years? Do you remember?
I mean, he's always been selling supplements and stuff.
The
Kind of
Fleshlight.
Alex. Oh, was he really?
The Fleshlight. That was his number one sponsor for years.
Holy cow.
I mean, yeah, for like 10 years, the Fleshlight was the number one sponsor of the Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, it's a trash show. I mean, it's got trash fruits, it's trash stuff, garbage in, garbage out. So you and your boys, I know you sit around all night and listen to this and talk about I know you put your druid costumes on and you listen to
Oh
this.
yeah.
You better stop it. So, all right, okay. So let's move to the They Pause the Tariffs. What do you think of that?
He said he had to pause it because people were getting scared.
Is that
Not
what he
because not
said?
because it's bad policy, because people were getting scared. Yeah.
But the thing is, he's so unreliable. Last night he said, "Oh, every country in the world's coming here and saying, 'Sir, give us a good deal.'" I guess that wasn't true, huh?
No.
Because
I don't think so.
oh,
I've seen some
sir,
people, what's his name? That one billionaire guy, Bill Ackman, the
yeah, yeah,
Harvard.
yeah,
He said something along the lines of,
Armageddon.
now the U.S. knows who to trust and who not to trust. So I guess all the people that went groveling within the first 24 hours or something like that are the ones the U.S. should closely align to, and China
Yeah,
that's
nice
put
spin,
out.
Bill. Nice.
Yeah.
When Bill Ackman called this Armageddon, he called it Armageddon 2 days ago. He said this tariff stuff is Armageddon. I posted online, all these MAGA people were like, "We should trust a billionaire." And I'm like, I'm sure today they're like, "Oh, Bill Ackman who said it," and it's so weird. There's like no one cares about objective reality. Of course, this is the thing that bothers me about Trump more than anything else. He acted like, "Oh, I got a great idea no one ever thought of before: tariffs." He acted like he's just some genius who thought of this new thing. But like, a lot of people have thought about tariffs before. A lot of people. So it's just so stupid. It really, that's the only word I can use. It's stupid.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing about all of these, right-leaning or right-wing people online is there is no there's just unyielding loyalty to the Trump. There's no support for principles. It's just support for him.
Well,
Everything is, whatever he says is going to be good. It's not any, it's never about the ideas he's putting forth or, the way that they need to be implemented. It's all about him. And I don't know.
that's why I always say there's saints, sinners, and fence sitters. I don't mean that literally, but there's people you just don't bother with. I mean, block them. Don't talk to them. If they're into the MAGA cult and they're going to spin it no matter what, don't bother with them. There's some people that are fence sitters you can talk to, and you better charge up your saints and get them out there. And I think that so many times we want to there's something instinctual. Like I heard Paul McCartney say that he's a Beatle, but if he sees one negative comment on a post, it throws him off for days. So he doesn't look at commentary because something about negativity, it really affects us, right? And they've done studies about coaching and how positive reinforcement is so much more effective than negative reinforcement. And I can see that with my kids. But, when we see somebody saying something completely outrageous, even me online, I want to confront it. But, you're better off just leaving it alone and trying to go to the people that are kind of in the middle, because some of these people, you can waste your entire life talking to them. They don't care. They are set in stone about what they believe, and no matter what, they're going to go with it. No matter what evidence you show them, no matter what I show you, no matter what evidence I show you about Joe Rogan, you're still going to get that Druid costume on and listen to it with your friends all night.
I've got to.
Okay, so
Got to.
yeah, I don't know. They paused it. I don't even know what it means. They paused it. I want to play a clip for you
So
real quick.
he paused it for everyone except China, and also there is still a 10% global tariff that is going to go into effect. So China still has I don't even know what it's at right now. I think it's 125% tariff. And there is a 10% global tariff that is still going to go into
So
effect.
he basically is negotiating, right? Is that what's happening? He's basically saying, "Oh, I'm changing my mind." But listen to this clip.
Would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
Well, we're not looking at that. We have many.
So that's 2 days ago saying he would not consider a pause in tariffs. He said we're not looking at that. So what happened in 2 days? Could it be the fact that the entire global economy was crashing and we were about to go homeless?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to remind people about what his first presidency was like. You can complain about how COVID was handled, but who was more correct? The people who said be careful and that we should shelter in place, or the people like Elon Musk who said it'd be 30,000 cases and disappear? The reality is, during Trump's presidency in America, we experienced more death than any human being in history besides the people who lived during World War I. Did you know that?
That's insane.
Yeah, there was more death around all of us. That's why we're all traumatized, is because there was so much death and we don't want to accept it. So many people want to pretend it didn't happen because it's so grim to think about. And then the right wing is still saying, oh, you shouldn't have done the lockdown for the schools. Every country did lockdowns. Sweden did lockdowns. You know the difference? In Sweden, the lockdowns were voluntary. And guess what? But you know why? Because people could be trusted to actually shelter in place. Here in America, you had to make it mandatory because people were like, no one's stopping me from having a barbecue. No one's stopping me from going to the gym. It's so, we are so incredibly selfish. We had, over 1 million people die in the United States. A quarter of the world's COVID deaths happened in the United States, and the lesson we take from that is, the lefties were too crazy about masks. I mean, it's nonsense. And now, we lived through Trump 1 where it was complete mayhem, right? Now we're in Trump 2 where it's mayhem again. We're 80 days into it, and we just had one of the worst trade wars ever, and now we're like pausing it because he obviously made a mistake. And I looked online just a second ago, and everyone's online like, we win, yeah, baby. What did we win? He's a genius. What? What?
The art of the deal. The art is straight from the art of the deal.
It's depressing. I mean, could you? I don't know. It really does feel like a cult to me. It's just a cult of stupidity. What was the end game with these tariffs? Okay.
I think long term, the goal is to move manufacturing back to the United States to kind of fix the problems that were created, through globalization, in which, a lot of people just lost their jobs and lost
Yeah.
their livelihoods
You
because
you can't
manufacturing moved
you
overseas.
can't unscramble an egg, man. You can't
That's the thing.
unscramble an egg. You know, you
And the idea that people are going to be clamoring to go work in sock factories and go work, in these dangerous
all
conditions,
right. I've been to some
it's
of these. I've been to some of these factories. I got to tell you because I'm so excited to tell somebody about what it's like. So, do you want your kids to work in an environment like this? I've been to some Chinese factories, and the factories I went to were among the better factories in China because they were operated by Western companies. You'd have dorms. Dorms meaning a building for boys, a building for girls. There's bikes out front. Every morning they get up and they take the bikes to the factory and they sit there for 14 hours a day and they put little things together. And these are young. You think about like who's working in factory. You think of like either like little boys chained to a thing or old grandmas. No, these are like attractive young people with like makeup on and like trendy clothes, but with hands covered in calluses and like just putting together toys all day long or putting whatever item they were putting together. And I remember when I was walking the floor, I had a suit on, and there's a kid sitting at one of the things, and he's like, "Hey, monkey." Did you hear that? I lose you.
yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, he said, "Hey, monkey." He called me a monkey. I was like, "Yeah,
he got you.
I was like, I deserve it." I'm like
You
walking to the
do.
factory in a suit. What do
You could you could have been working in a factory,
so I
but
took
instead you're living the white collar
colonialist. So I actually started like doing monkey noises and like
life.
to make him happy. It's like I was like, I started begging for a banana. No, I mean like it's. But my point is, these are like real people that have like feelings and don't want to be doing this stuff. But yeah, sure, Trump. Let's bring back that. What did Dave Chappelle said? He said, "I want to wear Nikes, not sew them."
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just so stupid. He's so brain dead. Like, why don't we look to the future, not try to relive the mistakes of 1980?
Yeah.
Ugh, it's
It's
just
I mean, I agree. I agree. I don't think anyone is thinking realistically about the long-term realities. And even if the manufacturing moves back here, what is every single company trying to create? AI and robotics. I
yes.
mean, Elon Musk, Tesla's big thing. He doesn't. A lot of people say Tesla isn't a car company; it's a robotics company, because not
That's what
only
he
are
that
their
that's their
cars,
selling point. That's they're trying to sell, but they have the
yeah,
worst. They have the
not,
worst car robotics. You know that, right?
yeah. Well, and I don't know if you saw that video, that YouTuber that wanted to put it to the test, and so he did like a Looney Tunes-esque
Oh yeah, I saw it. He ran right
prank
through
on the
it.
Tesla car because they don't use a LiDAR or whatever it is for their self-driving. But no, he wants to also create actual robots. And if they do,
Yeah, but
they're
hasn't
gonna
he had a
just employ
couple?
those robots
Hasn't he had a
instead of
couple demonstrations where they've put those robots out, but it was really people in suits?
yes, yeah.
The guy's a con man.
It's insane.
It's like
It's
some guy
insane.
in like a RoboCop suit, like walking like this, and like he's like, "Our AI is right on track."
But I mean, if people think that every company wouldn't immediately eliminate their employees for cheaper robotic ones. Not this isn't going to happen anytime soon, but 50, 100 years down the line, it's like, so what if we make Nike's, Air Jordans in the United States? No one is going to actually be working in those factories.
All right, listen, I want to go to a different subject now. A little bit of, because we're in agreement on the tariffs. So, in review, Trump is a fake. And Elon 2 days ago was having a panic attack about the tariffs. Was he not in on the plan, the top secret super plan by Trump to like, was he not playing the chess and playing checkers? Or, my point is like, he was like, 2 days ago, Elon was in a panic mode about the tariffs. Was that just like more showmanship by the Trump team? Or was there not, or you know what I mean? Like they're acting like this is all foreplanned. It wasn't planned. It's a reaction because his idea is bonkers.
Yeah, and the guy behind it, I don't know if you saw this, but the guy behind Peter Navarro,
Yeah.
the guy behind a lot of the ideas with the tariffs, has
Magoo, the Magoo
cited,
from the Magoo cartoons. See, this reminds me of.
yeah.
It's like, hey,
He's
what?
often
Who?
cited an economist named Ron Navarro. No.
No,
Ron Vera. Ron Vera.
yeah,
And this Ron Vera character doesn't actually exist. Apparently, he made up this economist, and there, it's an anagram of, or whatever it's called, where he's rearranged the
yes,
letters of his last name to
yeah.
create the name Vera.
It's another secret identity of one of these weirdos to try to like push his own backward ideas. And he is as dumb as a box of rocks or a box of whatever bricks, whatever Elon called him.
Yeah.
He's an idiot. He's a stupid. Oh, this cat, man. Every time I do a podcast, this cat wants to get on my lap. Yeah, it's all so dumb. It's so laughably dumb from far away. It doesn't look professional. Would you trust the United States? I mean, people as of this morning were selling not just stocks but bonds. Countries that have stocks and bonds, people, will they stop investing in both? Those are failed economies. Those are countries that are in the developing world. When people don't trust your country, they pull out of everything, and that's what was happening. And Trump panicked, and he rightfully so. At least he did the right thing. But now you're going to pick a trade war with China. Now, I've said before, China has this incredible economy that's growing, but they are highly dependent on the United States. The truth of the matter is he can probably crush the Chinese economy. It's going to be painful for us, too, because I want to remind people out there, who pays tariffs? I think we all know now. I saw this morning on the news, there's a guy who was importing things he made a small toy factory. I saw it was just on Fox News, by the way. And his previous bill for importing, the tariff bill, was $26,000. As of this morning, it's $380,000 or something like that.
Louise.
So he has to pay that for his business to operate. It's not paid by China. So it's a tax on business people who are working with China. And like when you're buying a Chinese good, you're not buying it from China. It's not like Xi Jinping is out there making a T-shirt. Some factory in America has made a contract with a company in China to develop the shirt. Now, if we want to make rules saying, hey, you can't outsource to slave labor and there has to be certain working conditions in these factories overseas, I'm all for it. I'm not saying you have to have the same wages as the United States, but at least they should be safe to be working. But like that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about punishing Chinese people as if that's how the economy worked. That's not how it works, Trump. He's so backward and primitive. But let's move on here to this is more of even can you believe it or not, this is even a darker subject. A lot of people are talking about toxic masculinity, incel culture, all the things you and your friends are into.
You know me too well.
So I want to play a little Pierce Morgan talking to my favorite guy, my favorite comedian, Mike Myers. Sorry. Sorry. No, I'm kidding. My favorite, not my favorite, one of the least favorite people is what's his name? Jordan Peterson. The crying Jordan Peterson. Here he goes. Ready?
Drama phenomenon, Adolescence. Which is really in your wheelhouse, I think, Jordan, because it follows a 13-year-old boy who's suspected of killing a young girl, and he's been adversely influenced, affected by what he's seen online, some pretty extreme stuff, a lot of misogyny. He's portrayed as a young incel and so on. There's now a move to have this series shown in schools. It's been a huge hit in the UK and America and everywhere else. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but you've probably seen the coverage of it. What do you make of the fact, A, that it's been so successful, and B, the premise behind it, that we're basically having an epidemic at the moment of young boys in particular whose brains are getting scrambled by pretty vile stuff online?
Okay, did you get the premise there?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the movie, did you watch Adolescence?
I've watched the first 3 episodes. I haven't watched the last episode yet.
Hard to watch, right?
I've enjoyed it.
But it's hard
dark stuff, but it's
I think it's important. It's an important. I posted online when I first watched it. First of all, it's great filmmaking. It looks good, right?
Yeah.
It's all one single shot. It's really kind of impressive to watch. But yeah, it's talking about kids in school. and this kid is watching like Andrew Tate type stuff that tells him to hate girls and that girls are going to make fun of him and he's never going to have relations with a girl. And what do you want to add to it? Anything? What else am I missing from the show?
Um, a lot of people are kind of talking about it from the mindset that I think one of the big things that is really drawing people is we've often talked about social media from a lens of how it affects young girls. And that's
Like hurting their
just
self
in creating
confidence. Yeah,
unrealistic
yeah.
standards, yeah, creating, bullying, cyberbullying, that kind of stuff. And I think only recently, and I think this might be one of the big first media productions that's really looked into how it affects boys as well. But I think that's been the always there under the surface, and people haven't realized until, the last few years with the rise of like Andrew Tate and other people of the manosphere is the it's an equal um
It's just
balance between
it's
young girls and young boys that are being affected by social media and the messaging that's being put out.
it's destroying lives. Here we go. Here we go. Jordan's take on it, which I disagree with, but here we go.
Well, look, there is a crisis of youth, both among young men and young women, and with young men, it's a consequence of the fact that they've been programmatically demoralized for 60 years, I would say. Their play preferences in schools are not favored because boys tend to be more active, as they're taught that competition is wrong by utter fools who don't understand that peaceful competition in game-like settings is actually an advanced form of cooperation that socializes aggression. They've been taught that their ambition is nothing but a manifestation of the oppressive patriarchy. They've been taught that all of
All right,
their...
I need to pause this for a second. So my take, I grew up, not that long ago. I think the world is better than it was when I was a kid. I hated it when I was a kid. I mean, Woodstock 99, constant sexual harassment in the workplace, constant belittlement of, just getting beat up in people getting beat up in gym class, having to fight to survive. It was very much a bully culture, survival of the fittest. Is what he's saying we should go back to? Because like I don't know if this is what anybody wants. I think the world has gotten way better. Okay, now listen, you're a little younger than me. Tell me what you think. I don't want to live in a world where it's like the world he's describing has never existed. It is, as far as I know. When I was a kid, I loved sports. I loved working out. But I was a sweet kid. I'm much more sweet than I am now. I didn't want to hurt people. I mean, when I played sports, I didn't want to like cause pain, but that was very much part of the culture. Cause pain, humiliate, haze. I hated that part of the sports life. I mean, I really pulled away from sports in high school because of that. I think that I don't want to go back to that world. And like I said, I was always uncomfortable with the level of sexual harassment in the workplace when I first started working. It was a constant like sexual innuendos, and it wasn't funny. It was horrible. And there's a point in the late '90s where I couldn't even go to a concert anymore because it was so. I mean, everywhere you went, girls were just being screamed at to take the shirts off. I don't know what this guy's talking about. Go ahead. I want to hear your take.
Yeah.
You're younger.
It's kind of interesting on the right in general. There's this need to return to a past that never really existed. And I think some of it stems from the fact that we are encountering problems today that are different from the problems of the past, and maybe in some cases worse. But I don't think that the way to solve those problems is by, trying to return to something that we can never return to. And as far as like the dynamics between boys and girls, I think, the reality is there are some differences, and it's that doesn't mean that the worst natures of young men need to be fed and fulfilled so that they can feel some sort of sense of accomplishment or sense of wholeness. I don't think that's the case at all. I think I agree with you. I was never, growing up, I didn't grow up in the same time period, but I was a soft-spoken kid. I didn't really like getting in confrontation with people. But I like sports. I like doing things. I like physical activity. I liked competing, but I wasn't a fan of whatever's being preached
I
online.
I think when I was
nowadays.
a kid, a lot of the people who were screaming and obnoxious, it was kind of a way for them to control the situation because they weren't athletic. And it was like a kind of way of a social way of controlling the situation because they were not physically dominant. It would always be the kid who was just kind of like the loudest kid, the most aggressive kid would always be the kid who wasn't able to perform on the field, so to speak, or in the weight room. And like, listen, you know me. I'm like a guy who like grew up like I mean, it sounds homoerotic, but it wasn't. I used to work out with my buddies, our shirts off, and we'd be like very much from the Arnold era. Like we'd love that stuff, sweating on each other and being buddies. But it was like congenial. And I know that was like, it wasn't like that for most kids. I remember going to the gym with my other friends and being like, this is a very confrontational, aggressive, not cooperative environment. So I think some boys really hated that stuff. And I especially hated the way that, I mean, because I was raised by a woman maybe, but my mom would not tolerate any type of like locker room talk in the house. And I really had an aversion to that as a kid. So I really don't want to go back to the world that I grew up in. And when I go to my kids' high school today, there's much more acceptance of diversity of different personality types and sexualities. It's just so much more positive. So I don't know what he's talking about here. I think what the real problem is, there's these hucksters online like Joe Rogan and his progeny who just want to take advantage of boys and the insecurities of youth for their own, they want to nurse the worst aspects of being a boy and the worst instincts because they make money on it. And just the way they do for the girls that, these girls that are taken advantage of and made to feel like they're not beautiful, because it's a way of exploiting people. But let me just keep going with Jordan, because he always starts off sounding reasonable. And if you keep listening to him, he sounds less and less reasonable. So here we go.
Attraction towards women is to be regarded with extreme skepticism because fundamentally they're nothing but, would-be rapists. And, that all has an effect. And I've seen that, and it's been painful to see. I've been struck to the core over the last 6 years as my influence has grown to see just exactly the scope of demoralization among young people. I'll talk about men first, all around the world. And also, Pierce, hurt as well by the observation that many of these young men can be set right with not much more than some truly encouraging words. And, that exaggerates the pain because the problem is deep and the solution isn't that.
Okay, listen, he's correct that some young boys need to have figures to look up to and some positive reinforcement. We talked about it in the beginning here, but I don't think that's the way it was before. I mean, kids were just beaten down all the time and boys were beaten down. What I think the left is doing wrong is there are positive male role models. Like when I was a kid, we looked up to Sidney Poitier and Jimmy Stewart, these iconic people in the movies. We wanted to be like them. To me, a moral person was someone who was kind, who had the decency and strength to be kind, but also could be strong, but not strong physically per se, but strong about their morals. Like they were going to do the right thing no matter what. And that was like the ideal man that I wanted to be like. Yeah, there may be a physical component, but it wasn't about being the buffest guy. You didn't need to be the Rock. You needed to be somebody who was, more than anything, you were strong on your values. And that was portrayed in film. That was, if anything that I am nostalgic about, that was the role model that we saw and that many of us looked up to, those type of people, like the Harrison Ford type characters. So I do think there is a positive form of masculinity, and the left may have not recognized that the way they should have or the way they could have. And there was some idea that all men were, remember this thing was like, I know on the left for a while, it was, you could say not all men, and it would become like a curse. Not all men. It actually is all men. And I don't believe that. I believe there are lots of good men. And when you generalize in any group, and it usually leads to absurd results. And Piers Morgan keeps talking here. So anyway, the bottom line is there is a lot of young men that do feel lost in our society. And the point that Jordan Peterson makes that is correct is you want to see someone truly dangerous. And this is not a threat. This is just a fact. You find a young man that has no purpose and really does feel removed from society. And I think that's what the show Adolescence is kind of pointing to, right? These young men who are not found, because they're not given role models that are appropriate, because they feel lost and alone. They do become dangerous. There's that possibility out there, whether it's in the Middle East where you have a young man who is radicalized through religion, or whether it's in Western New York with Timothy McVeigh, who was radicalized through political thought. You find people that feel alone and are isolated and not having a purpose. They can become dangerous. So what do you do about that?
That's the big question, isn't it? I think if we had an answer, we would have solved the issue already. One thing that, Jordan Peterson, and I feel like, maybe the same thing is an issue on the left. Sometimes it feels like it's either one, it's all or nothing, like we can't promote positive female role models because that will take away from, promoting positive male role models. And we can't focus on, creating a more equitable place for, minorities and, people that are uh, disenfranchised, because that will take away from, people that are not minorities, that are enfranchised, feeling the same necessary sense of belonging and inclusion. And I think we have to get out of that mentality that it's all or nothing and it's one or the other, because we need to try to make
We got to
sure
get away
that
from the zero-sum game. I've talked to some women about this in my life, and I said, listen, boys are struggling in school. And they're like, oh, that's just a way for us to ruin school for girls because now girls are achieving higher than boys. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. I think that we have to address that we're educating the entire population. And if so many boys are failing, we don't have an educational system that's successful. Just like when we have an educational system that was failing so many girls because they felt they couldn't speak in the classroom. And like, I don't know, if you look at the suicide rates and so many things, that boys are obviously in trouble in our country. And I think we have to start talking about it more, but I think we should probably, move away from the idea. It's like, if you listen to Jordan Peterson more and these type of guys, if you really boil it down, it seems like they're saying that girls should have sex or with partners they don't want to. And then a lot of it sounds like that, doesn't it? Doesn't it, when you get down to it? Even that Scott Galloway or whatever his name is, he's so critical of women for being choosy about their partners. Have you noticed this?
I've not noticed it so much from Scott Galloway. I think he's one of the better ones in terms of, talking about this subject, but because he doesn't do it so much from a right-wing perspective.
Right.
But I do think it's an issue because the reality is the problem, one of the problems is a lot of people are feeling that it's an us against them, when it not necessarily is. A lot of these young men might feel like women are rejecting them, like women have achievable standards or whatnot. And so I think in an attempt to kind of talk to some of these guys, people will feed into that delusion or that, feeling of creating an us against them mentality.
I think there's two problems here. Number one, the boys are taught to think they should have access to any girl. Guess what? Some of these girls don't want you. And maybe you're not deserving of a supermodel. I mean, that's part of the problem, don't you think? I think
there's definitely unrealistic standards.
A lot of boys look at girls as objects and they're like, I want the Bugatti. They don't look at girls as people. I think that's the problem. If I really see one problem, it's that boys, if I was a young girl today, I wouldn't want to date boys. And listen, I remember when I was a kid and there'd be a beautiful girl and she'd have like, I remember like guys, she would reject some guy and he'd be like, well, you have too much hair on your arms. Anyway, it'd be like the next thing would be to like diminish or destroy the girl emotionally. Mm-hmm. And I just feel a lot of the online culture with like Andrew Tate, it's like dominate these women because they're pigs and they don't want to sleep with you. So you got to make them sleep with you. Well, maybe you're just not meant to be with them. Maybe you should change who you are as a person. And if you look at your potential partners as people, you'll find people that you actually want to be with. It's like so materialistic and superficial the way boys are taught to look at women or to appreciate women. And then you have this whole movement now with young men trying to go to church, right? Have you seen this huge number of the people who are going to church now? You've seen this, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is that in your world too? You're younger. Tell me.
Yeah, and I am a church goer, and
Stop lying. We know.
there's been studies showing that there is more popularity, in the faith that I participate in, there's more popularity of the faith with men than there is with women. And I think that goes to, that's a variety there's a variety of reasons for that. But I think one of the ideas that men like it is because there are traditional, quote unquote, roles not enforced necessarily, but encouraged. And you, I don't know. I think
I
it's
think it's because they can control women in church.
yeah. I think
A
it's
good wife is
dangerous
supposed to
to.
do this and this and this, and of course they're going to go to church. I mean, I wouldn't if I was a woman from a completely self-centered perspective, which is, I'm not saying they shouldn't be this way. I'd be this way. I would probably be very picky about who I was dating because I'd feel like I was scared because like the stuff that's out there, and I would very much I would avoid church. How's the fact that what's her name? I saw the other day Scott Galloway saying that all these boys have to go through 200. They go through 200 faces on whatever Tinder or whatever, and they can't find someone to meet for coffee, and they get ghosted. I want to say, welcome to the world. There's no way you're going to be able to change the natural dynamics of supply and demand. Girls have always been more choosy than boys, and they've always had the opportunity to select. Why is this suddenly some ground shaking problem for boys? Every boy gets rejected. That's part of being a young boy. Relax, And let me give you some practical advice for every young boy out there. I don't care who you are. If you're kind, this is the real truth you need to hear. If you're kind and you think about the concerns of other people, you will find someone to have sex with. Okay, I promise you. And you probably find someone to love. Think about how you can be kind and gentle, and you will find somebody. And you look for the best in other people, like you want to have some other person looking the best in you, and eventually you'll find somebody. That's how life works. If you're worried about your needs being met and you're being selfish and you need the best and you need all these things, yeah, you probably go through life constantly feeling bitter and end up alone. But if you're not that type of person and you're strong enough to say, listen, I love myself and I'm going to go out there and be kind and use my talents and skills to be kind to other people, I promise you someone nice will come into your life. What do you think of that advice, young man?
I think if I take that back to my friends, I'm going to get rejected. No, I think it's excellent advice, but I think a lot of people don't want to hear it because ultimately what that advice is look at yourself, fix yourself, and you'll find success. And people don't want to look at themselves. They want to blame their problems on other people, other issues, and because it's easier to do that than, looking in the mirror and, taking account.
If you go through life hating girls and blaming them for the fact you're alone, you have 0% chance of ever finding a girl, guys. 0% chance. What kind of girl wants to be with somebody who thinks that girls are evil and bad and selfish? Would you, like, if you come into life or into a relationship with that as your template about how girls are, you're done. And guess what? The girl online who's saying, I want someone who's in finance, blah, 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 and it has all these high requirements, trust me, you probably don't want to be with that girl anyway, okay? Find someone that that is fun. And let me say one more bit of advice. Physical looks is the least important thing. And it sounds stupid. Yeah, you have to have some level of physical attraction, but eventually it comes down to like, do you feel comfortable with the person? Do you trust them to talk to you? Can you talk to them? Do you enjoy listening to them? Because you need to listen to them. And if those things don't match, forget it. Doesn't matter who they are. Because eventually physical looks go away. All right, is this too much for you? I'm sorry if I'm icky.
No, no, no. I agree. I mean, I think the show is great. I think it should be shown, especially to parents of kids that are in, teenage years. And I think it's one of the ways that you start addressing the problem. But I'm afraid that the problem is just going to keep on getting worse and worse. I mean, I think it was the last election. Gen Z had
Yeah.
the biggest disparity between males and females as far as where they aligned politically or ideologically. You know, more Gen Z men voted
Yep.
Republican than and more Gen Z women. I don't know if there's been further data on that or anything, but I think those were the initial,
I'm gonna watch the show with
pros and
my
cons.
boys. I mean, I don't even think they need it. I think they're pretty good, but I'm gonna watch it with them. I mean, really, I don't. I think they both have healthy relationships with girls, and then I think that um, listen. Here's one more bit of advice for you weirdos out there. Yeah, if you want to hate girls and not meet any and be around a bunch of weird, angry boys, yeah, go to Republican meetings. That's what you're gonna get. Or if you want to make sure you only are around weird boys that hate girls, go to some weird evangelical church in your hometown. It'll be wonderful. If you want to meet tons of girls that are cool and love the world, why don't you go to some progressive events and maybe go to some pro-feminist meetings? Maybe you'll meet a girl, you weirdos. Okay, here we go. Listen. I don't want to say it like this. I'm going to say it. Be a man. Stop whining and worrying about how, you're treated poorly. Just be a man and go out there and live your life. And trust me, if you're kind like a man is supposed to be, if you think about others like a man is supposed to, if you're not constantly worried about your feelings getting hurt and you worry about who you are as a person, not what you're getting, but what you can provide, guess what? Good things will come to you. Fair enough?
I think so. If you're going to worry about something, worry about the economy.
Okay, now I want to talk about one more cultural issue. We didn't talk about Elon getting smashed on Tell me, Elon went online to show how good he is at video games, like every 50-something-year-old man does, right?
Yeah.
And he was first of all, he played a game where he lost in 2 seconds on a tutorial mode. And then he tried a different game. You give me the review, and then the whole world came down on him. And I don't want to celebrate
he tried live
cyberbullying.
streaming another game that's very difficult to play, and
What
a
was the
real
game?
test of how good. I think it's called Path of Exile 2.
Right.
So a real test of your skills as a gamer. And anyway, there's a live chat whenever you're streaming that goes through that people can comment on. And he got a bunch of spam attacks in his chat saying things like, "You have no friends, you're a loser,
Kill
you're
yourself.
going to die
Yeah,
alone."
it was horrible.
It's
Yeah, no one really
rough.
likes you. Yeah, it was, and I don't want that type of stuff. But he then, in the parlance of today, he rage quit. Correct?
Yes, yeah, he attempted to ban the people that were saying those things, and he couldn't keep up with them, and so he just eventually turned off the stream and turned off the game.
And then listen, we don't like you, Elon. You're the person who said in one breath, you said what? What did you say? You said that we should. Empathy is the worst trait of Western civilization. And the next week you got on TV and said, feel sorry for you because the stock of your stupid company was going down. Like, you can't ask for empathy and then say empathy is a weakness. It's just, he's just a monster. We forget you are the most politically powerful person in the world, arguably, and also the most rich. How can we possibly like you? And the idea that we're just jealous of him because he's rich. I am not jealous of him because he's rich. I actually loathe him because he's amassed so much wealth. There's an assumption if someone's net worth is high, they must be a quality person. Can I talk about this for a second? Just 1 second.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's false. If something makes a lot of money, it doesn't necessarily mean it's good. I mean, my local library doesn't make any money. I say this every week. But it enriches the community. It edifies us. It provides an opportunity for community groups to meet and talk. It's not exactly a profit setter for the town, is it? But you know what? We could really spice it up. If I got some of those librarians to perform on OnlyFans, it would be a great moneymaker for the town.
Cha-ching.
Now, I'm saying that obviously in jest, but like people, Bad Bobby or Barbie or whatever, how much did she make on OnlyFans last year? Like $100 million or something? So, if we're just gauging something's worth to our community and our society by how much money it makes, Gangnam Style should be the most important song ever made. It should be more important than Bach or Mozart or Beethoven or anything else. Because something is popular or generates revenue doesn't necessarily mean it's good for society. Correct?
No, I 100% agree. And the thing about Elon is so much of this stuff is self-inflicted. The anger is stemming from the fact that he thinks he can just put himself in charge because of his wealth, because of his influence, and that he knows better than anybody else. And it's like, if he had not started Doge, if he had not, you know, campaigned for Trump, a lot of this backlash would never have been
He was
experienced.
beloved because he was seen as providing service. He was providing, he was alleviating global warming. He was providing a mission for our higher aspirations through SpaceX. The left loved him. And I didn't like him. I've been kind of, I could see his fascist or even authoritarian or racist tendencies a long time ago. It was pretty obvious. But the left, they loved this guy. They called him Iron Man. But when you start taking that goodwill and then suddenly saying that there's a woke mind virus and trying to destroy people's lives, cutting the government, cutting the regulators that oversee you, and saying you have a right to do so because your overvalued car company made you unbelievably rich. When you ban people from Twitter and say that you're a free speech absolutist, I remain banned from Twitter, by the way. It's a joke. And so, I think he deserves the heat, and I hope he changes. Both these men, Trump and Elon, I want to say to both of your fathers, God, you guys are horrible. You had horrible fathers. They made you so insecure. Elron or whatever your dad, what is his dad's name?
Errol.
Errol and Elon. What names? Errol Flynn, like I said to you, but like Elon, where does that name?
Well, there was what was that thing? A few years ago, someone posted something from, I don't know, I don't remember who wrote the book, but some sci-fi writer that predicted the name of the man that would conquer Mars or something like that was an Elon.
Oh, really?
And that caused a lot of stir on X. Caused a lot of excitement amongst the Elon fanboys.
Elon. It reminds me of that Elton John song. I want to get that new Elton John album. By the way, I don't even like Elton John, but I like I like Brandy Carlisle so much. Yeah. He shall believe on. You know that song? Okay. And he shall be a good man. Do you know that song? Maybe not.
Is that Elton John?
Yeah. He shall be a good man. Something like that. He shall believe on. Okay. All right. Elon's grandfather, I told you earlier, was some kind of weirdo in Canada who tried to create a new government that was anti-democracy that was run by tech overlords. He started
the dream.
Like this has been a long time family dream.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. And he was a good man. Last thing, I know you got to go to class. Here we go. Listen to this.
You ever wonder what happens when you mix hot lava and chicken? I did, and you're about to find out. You hear that? That's the sound of sizzling. Smell that smell. La 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 lava, chicken. Steve's lava chicken, yes, tasty as hell. Ooh, mama, see tonight you're ringing the bell. Crispy and juicy, now you're having a snack. Ooh, super spicy, it's a lava attack.
So you're listening to a live. Oh wait, you there?
Yeah,
You
I'm
there?
here.
You there?
You hear me?
You there?
You hear me?
Oh, what'd I do? Hello?
Hello?
Give me
Can
a
you hear
second
me?
here. You there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry about that. I turned off all the volume. I was so excited by that song. Yeah, I mean, like, listen, Minecraft is a phenomenon, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I'm seeing it Friday with a couple of buddies of mine. We're pumped.
It was
We're
funny.
excited
It
for
was fun. It was great. And I said this before, but I want to say it with you. I think there's some sort of, for the last 20 years, all we ever heard about is how important the millennials are, and I think they got used to having control of everything. And Minecraft is more of skews younger, more like a Gen X, or excuse me, not Gen X, Gen what, Z, Gen 8,
Gen Z,
Gen Alpha
definitely.
type thing. And I think the millennials, especially the critics that are younger, they're having a really hard time letting go of the steering wheel, aren't they?
Yeah. There's a film commentator that I follow. His name's Sean Fennessy, and I really like what he says about the industry and everything. But he thinks that this movie is the most important movie of the year so far because it is a shift in who the film industry is going to try to cater to. And like you said, over the past, couple decades, a lot of it has been catering to the nostalgia of
Gen
millennials.
X and
Like
millennials, right?
even, quote unquote, children movies. I mean, Super Mario, lots of kids play Super Mario, but so did a lot of Gen Xers, so did a lot of millennials.
And
That
it
movie
was
was very much trying to appeal to multiple generations. That's not really the same thing with Minecraft. Minecraft, I think it's 10 years old. So, or 15 years old. Most of the people that have been playing it are, under the age of 25. I don't know if anybody over that age has really sat down and spent hours on end in the Minecraft universe. And yeah, the people that the film is trying to cater to are also loving it. I mean, I don't know how it was when you saw it, but I mean, people are posting theater reactions and everything, and it's like they're watching a live rock concert. It's insane.
Yeah, I think sorry. I loved it. I had the greatest time ever. It was one of the best times I had in the theater ever. Even when I went to go see the prequels years ago. Um it was kind of like it was nostalgia. It wasn't like we were that excited for the movies. The Star Wars prequels. But
Hmm.
like this was like people were feeling true excitement like for something that they couldn't believe was actually on the screen. And there's for your generation and for younger kids and for my generation, he's a transgenerational talent, Jack Black. Everybody loves him. Everybody loves that guy, especially kids. My kids say their favorite actor is Jack Black. When I was a kid, my favorite actor was Harrison Ford. So
Yeah.
like Jack Black is the most popular actor in America, and I think that's great. By the way, talk about a great male role model. It's Jack Black. He's funny. He's kind. He's in his movies. He has this sense of purpose and a sense of will. Whether it's Nacho Libre, one of the best movies ever made, by the way, or this. I love Jack Black. I love the movie. I think it's so positive, and it's such a positive thing that we need right now. And when I saw the message of the movie is this. Yeah, I know the corporate world that we live in is bleak and it doesn't give you a lot of hope or creativity. And I know you found creativity in this little Minecraft universe, and that's great. But take that and take it into the real world. Start a small business, be with your friends and family, make your community better. And I loved that message. I loved the movie. I give the movie a 10. I'm not kidding you. If I just judge it based on my experience in the theater with my kids and my family, I give it a 10. So I wish you luck at the theater.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna go head to toe in my diamond armor.
Oh, I wear diamond underneath this. Don't you know that?
Don't
You know my
want to mess
back.
with you.
Anything else you'd like to add? So listen, I am actually happy that the tariffs have been removed. I feel like maybe the world's not going to end. I was really worried. And don't tell me that, oh, Trump had this planned. He didn't. He did not. But, I feel.
Luke or Luke McMurray.
Oh, my son's calling me.
Okay.
All right, listen, I will talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
See you,
Sounds
buddy.
good.
Take care.
See ya. Bye.
just like listening to this. The theremin. I got a theremin somewhere, believe it or not.